What's up, man? It's Ivan. So I haven't looked at the site yet. I'm just gonna do this live with you. Um, and as I come across things, mention them as I come across them. Otherwise, I'll just forget, in real time. One thing I'll mention is right now I'm having a issue switch. I used to do a full screen screen share, or screencast, but I recently switched over to tabbed screen share so that I can conceal the top of my browser and just focus on the page itself, And it also lets me use these tools here. It's kind of hard to explain how the software works that I use, but one of the one of the problems I'm having is switching between tabs, and there's supposed to be a way to do it, but I'm having problems. So I'm just going to stay on the website rather than going to the back end and talk about the back end and anything I see in there. One thing I did notice is it's you use a lot of standard plugins out there. That's fine, but I actually recommend make sure that you get that bonus, which is basically in the documentation that I'm going to give you, or I've given you if you're watching this. It's basically that once you once the gig is done, if you want my 10 bonus links to my advanced SEO kind of tools, um, it's just an exchange of a 5-star review and a glowing testimonial on Upwork. You give me good stuff, and I'll give you good stuff on there, and then I'll send you my advanced SEO consultation, which for free. And I used to try to charge for it, but people just didn't understand the value, and so I've over time accumulated all the affiliate links, and that's basically how I monetize that upsell, but I still provide that list for free. So it's a nice little bonus. Whereas before, a lot of pretty much none of my clients would ever order that. So it's a pretty big bonus to get for free. Um, and in there, there's some tools, and there's a couple of WordPress plugins that I think you would really appreciate that would help your general builds out there. So definitely take advantage of that, and take a look at that whenever you get the chance. So let's go through this here. So slider looks good. You got some call to actions on the About Us page. You got a redirect on, let's see here, some kind of news event. You've got software training solutions. Okay, so that's a real page that has ranking potential. CNC routers, that's definitely a keyword I saw in the research I did. Why is this needs to stick when I'm hovering over it. CNC software training. Okay, so that's definitely an inner page that has ranking potential that you're linking to, so that's good. It's very common when I do consultations for clients that they'll have a nice, picture slider there, but then they won't have any like call to action, or like zero call to action, right? Like no conversions, or they will have, or it just won't be significant enough. And it looks like you do have some significant inner pages that you're linking to. One thing I would recommend is to make, if you can, make this bigger. Make this button bigger. Because like a lot of people out there, just regular people, are not going to see that button. It's really small. And you have to remember that, of the top 3 ranking factors that are out there, which are content, um, backlinks, and traffic. Okay, content is king, as you know, it's the easiest thing to affect. Backlinks, are about other people's basically references or referrals of your website. And then finally, traffic is a really interesting one. And it's one that even people who are, heavily involved in all kinds of facets of internet marketing, they really take it for granted, because what a lot of people don't acknowledge, and I have come to realize this because I do a lot of consultations, and I actually learn quite a bit from the companies that I do consultations for. And one of the things I've learned about traffic is that it's the number one reason why Google cannot do anything about crowd searching. And if you don't know what crowd searching is, you're welcome to Google it sometime. It's basically the manipulation of of your bounce rate using bots, fake IPs, fake traffic. And the idea is you use these bots to do branded searches on your domain, or branded searches, or you input the domain directly, either um, or doing searches for keywords and then clicking on your site, or clicking what a lot of people are doing out there. It's black hat big time. They're doing searches for the keywords, and then they are clicking on the competitor site and then really quickly hitting the back arrow, right? So to make their bounce rate really high, and then they're going to their sites that they want to rank, and they're clicking on those sites, and they're staying there for like 15 minutes or more or whatever, and going to multiple pages throughout the site. It's manipulating the bounce rate. So, I've had some consultations where I've given some CRO or some conversion rate optimization advice, and I've had people say to me, one lady who is in social media marketing expert, she had a big ticket course for it was like $1,000 course for social media marketing type stuff, and she was a pro. She was clearly accomplished and highly competitive in the field, and she kind of got she regularly would get upset with me for things, and then I would have to calm her down and explain, and she was like, oh, okay, like multiple times, and one of the times was when she was like, yeah, I'm not really here for CRO advice. I'm here for SEO advice, And I was like, well, believe it or not, when it comes to traffic, conversion rate optimization is actually linked to SEO, because keeping your traffic on your page and how your traffic engages with your page is a big part of SEO. Or, well, I don't know if I should say big. It's one of the major three facets out there. Okay, so don't underestimate your conversion elements. And I'm particularly thinking of right now the 70% rule, the idea that the vast majority of traffic only sees the top 70%, right, of any given web page. So let me get my marker out here so I can, so I can really illustrate this point. It would be something like from this line. Maybe that's not quite. Maybe it's something like this. I don't know. I'd have to sit here and divide it, but it's something like all of this stuff here, you know, and then down here it just there are significant diminishing returns supposedly, right? So that's something to think about. You want to put your things that have the highest conversion potential at the top. You know, so this looks good. It's good to have these interlink links here. If you're going to keep this slider, then make those buttons bigger. Keep them clicking on your site. Keep them traveling throughout your site, because when people go from search engine to a page, Google's tracking everything that they do, you know, once they're on your page, including the time and how many pages they click through to and when they leave, you know. Um, what I like to do is I like to do one of a few things, okay? A video front and center at the top, and then a call to action right there. Big thing to do. In the upper right, a, a big phone number, okay, for someone to call. Another way you could do it is a video here to the left, and then an opt-in form or a contact form with a big phone number right there. Ideally, you want to have a really big phone number in the upper right, so that people can know, okay, I need to call. And this seems to me like a company where you definitely don't mind people calling. And you might even want to put a tracking number there so that you can track the conversions of people calling. So, that would be really useful. Installing a heat map on, every site you do, so where people are interacting as well, would be really useful. And you can Google heat map, and there's all kinds of solutions out there. Let's see here. Headline core keyword. I see you've got your different areas. This is a fine way to do it. linking to these different areas on your site, you may want to drop down as well so that they can get wherever, whenever. I see here. Okay. So I wouldn't have known that this was a drop down unless there was an arrow. You might want to make these, if you can, have a little arrow there so people can know at a glance that there's a drop down. Okay, let's see. Featured supplier, Thermwood. You probably want to do a dedicated page on Thermwood, dedicated pages on your suppliers. Now, I'll give you a really big sort of, I don't know, I'm hesitant to say underground secret, but I will say, because I hate that kind of stuff, in SEO or in internet marketing in general, but I will say that I've never, ever, ever heard anyone talk about this. I discovered this on my own. I'm going to give this to you for free. And it's a little something called outdomaining, which may sound kind of obvious, but basically I discovered this. I was doing some work for a client of mine in the drywall niche, commercial drywall to be exact. And I learned that they didn't really care about ranking, that for the last 30 years they'd be getting clients through a private bidding sort of system out there somewhere, and that they only needed a website as a sort of online business card. And they didn't care about ranking, they didn't care about e-commerce systems. It was just for general information so that they could give that to the potential client when they were doing bids. Okay. And some of the information that they wanted me to put on there were some of the projects that they had done and some of the contractors that they had worked with, right? Well, I did that, but I went the extra mile and I put dedicated pages to each of these contractors and each of these jobs. And I put sections where the client could put a little bit of a description on what they did for the job. And the client was kind of lazy and never did that. But what I did is I put citations on those pages. And so I put the name of the company, and I put their address, and I put their phone number, and I may have put something else on it, or a link. I put a link to their website. Okay, so I put these citations, and what that did was they're basically local citations, right? And I learned something much later when I was linking that asset to another asset, right? I noticed that there was a surprising amount of domain authority and page authority coming from that client site, and I never did any SEO on it. I never did any articles. And I was like, what's going on here? How is this possible? And so I started looking at the pages, and I found that some of the pages to some of the contractors in particular, and maybe some of the jobs, I don't remember if some of the jobs were this way or not, but there was a few contractors where those inner pages actually had a surprisingly high amount of page authority. And I started wondering, what is this and how is this possible? Why is this page getting authority? And it was because of those citations going out. And I did some research on it, and I found out that they called them out domains. There was a certain group calls them out domains, and I don't know if there's a better term for it. But basically, it's the idea that, by linking out to something that has authority and giving them credit, you're actually giving that page juice. And I found that I think that it only applies to certain companies where their website has a certain amount of authority, but still, it's really surprising that it works that way. And I've never heard anybody talk about it. Now, sometimes people talk about authority links, like you want to put a link to an authority site like Wikipedia at the bottom as a sort of citation, as a sort of sources kind of thing. Like, here are our sources for this article. And that's known to provide authority, but I've never heard anybody talk about it from a citation standpoint, or especially a local citation standpoint. Excuse me. Because typically having the sources cited will give you authority for citing those sources, but it's it's not quite the same. I hope you can understand the differentiation I'm giving you. So if you have the time, I would recommend creating dedicated pages on your suppliers, on your partners, on the jobs that you've done, and writing 550 word articles or more. The best, of course, as I wrote in my general SEO thing, is around 1,500. That's the ideal number. But you could do 1,100. You could do 2,000. Just a minimum of 550. Ideal is 1,500. Really good is more than 2,000. Super, super good is even more than that. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on your budget, but you could just do 550 words and then put the citations there. Put the name of that business, the address, including the zip code and all that business. And you know what you should do? You should hyperlink those addresses in Google Maps. Okay? So you basically embed those addresses onto those pages. Okay? And you also can actually embed the phone numbers by doing the tel colon thing or whatever. You can paste them from Google Maps business listing, and they should paste as hyperlinked, so that when someone clicks on them, they can call. Or if they click them on their click on them with their phones, it'll call. And also put a link to their website there. Okay, and I think you're giving people juice, but you're also, and you may even be able to contact those suppliers. Okay, you may be able to contact them and say, hey, listen, here's an article we did on you guys. Is there any possibility of getting a guest post opportunity with your company? Because if you get guest post opportunities from these suppliers, I mean, if you just got like one or two, you could shoot up significantly. I mean, I can't promise that. I'm sure that these are, major companies or whatever, but it's something to think about. It's something to try. And it's going to benefit you to do that article writing and that linking anyways. So you'll probably actually rank at the bottom of the page for a lot of these companies too, which may be beneficial. So, it is some money, it is some work, but it's good for the site. So that's a really good piece of advice I can give you there. Make sure that you're hyperlinking. Like, these look like they're probably hyperlinks to your inner pages, and that those inner pages are linking to one another. I'm sure you know about silos. If you don't, you can just do Google silos, a silo structure or interlinking structure. It's really simple. It's basically just linking from one page to the next. It's just like creating a power grid on your site. I mentioned it in other videos. In your footer, you're definitely going to want to put some disclaimer, privacy policy, all those liability protection links. You're going to want to put a link to your sitemap down there for sure. And you're going to want to put a citation, a local citation for this company. Okay, so you're going to want to put the name of the company. You're going to want to put just like the other citations for those businesses. You're going to want to put the address, and you probably want to hyperlink the Google Maps address link, to onto the text of the actual address. Okay, and you want to put the phone number down there as well. And again, make it clickable, because when people make it same thing at the top if possible. When people look at that number on their phones, if it's hyperlinked, they can push it with their finger and it'll call from their phone. Okay, and then you want to put well, I guess that's pretty much it. But doing that, since this is a local business, you definitely want to put your address and show that it's in Canada, ideally, if it is in Canada. I don't know if it is or not. I assume it is, but okay. So anyways, what else we got here? Solutions by processes. It's kind of a confusing layout. You should probably clean this up so that it's easier to understand. The way that it's organized is kind of confusing. Let's see. I'll click on this one and see what this is about. Okay. CNC routers, 3-access systems, optimizing your CNC nested CNC routers. So make sure that your slug up here reflects the H. It doesn't have to be the same as the H1. Like whatever keyword you're trying to, there's some debate as to whether or not your slug should be the same as your H1, vice versa. Like I've done quite a bit of research. I think it's really okay for it to be the same. You know, it needs to be the keyword, right? The keyword that you're trying to target, I think. And so if this is just general information and these are the models, you need to have an article on this page about CNC 3-access CNC routers, particularly 3-access CNC routers, right? So that's an area like I talked about in the keyword research video. You need your article for that keyword would go here. Let's see, Thermalwood Cabinet Shop 43, Thermalwood Cabinet Shop. Uh-oh. Yeah, so that's not good. I hope that this isn't dependent on Adobe Flash, because then some of your users might run into this problem. And I get this notice all the time, and I've updated Adobe Flash, and so I don't know what the deal is with that. This is cool. This is interesting. Get a quote. View video CNC routers. You might want to make these like bigger, more pronounced, so people can see the options, because I think that's really interesting. What else do we have here? Cutting. You got these snippets, but on each of these products, you probably want to have, again, a minimum of a 550-word article describing these products, because these are opportunities for ranking. You know, article, image, even a video. If there's a video here, let me look at this. Wow, so you have videos. I mean, that's really good stuff. Like you need to embed those videos on those dedicated pages for those cabinets. You need to have a video describing just general CNC router 3-access systems. Everything that is a page should have an article. You know, that's really the core of SEO. You know, you can have an H1, an H2, an H3, you know, whatever. You know, people talk about diversifying anchor text and all that stuff. I think that's just silly. Like, here's the thing, like, Google is looking for the main thing about SEO. Like, you can get boosts for a number of technical things. Like, you can get boosts for applying schema data to your website and things like that. And, you know, any things that make it easier for Google's algorithm to learn more about your site, you can get boosts for them. But like, you have to weigh, like, okay, where do I get the most impact for the least amount of labor? And not to sound lazy, but there's a point where you get diminishing returns, right? So it's not about being lazy, it's about being efficient. And in my, you know, what I think has given the best results, okay, is and will consistently yield the best results is focusing on the basics, the core, what's really important. And what's really important to Google are those big three: content, backlinks, traffic, right? i.e. the bounce rate of that traffic. And so content being king, you know, you want to have an authoritative piece of content, both in subject and in its length and its how thorough it is. You know, with keywords that are specialized on that topic. So you do a page, then that page is specialized on this topic. It's not bouncing all over the place, comparing it to this, comparing it to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, each page is about a specific topic and includes those keywords that are important, and it has a few images, it has a video ideally, but it's really about that piece of content, how long it is, how authoritative it is, how specialized it is. That's the foundation. And then on top of that, you can do promotions onto it, through guest posts and press releases. And then you really shoot up, you know. I've got, sites that I haven't done much work with, that I threw up a while back that have one link going to them, and they just have, some strong authoritative articles, and they've got, 15 DA, 20 PA, just from the basic content, right? And it could probably be even higher if I improve the content, just, from content. So, that's really the core the piece of advice that I can give you in terms of how to affect your rankings. From there, you just need to get creative with doing your promotions, so, go into CNC drills and inserters, and this article needs to be about CNC drills and inserters. And I wouldn't go beyond 2 topics, right? It's actually common to do 2, but I've done some consultation for some bigger companies, like some national brands in the United States. So like in one situation that comes to my mind, doing a consultation for a really big plumbing company um, in the United States, a national plumbing company. And, I actually had the opportunity to talk with the SEO specialist there, and, making comments about, I've tried this and this and this, and I just can't rank beyond a certain point on this one site that we have. And I was sitting there going, well, and I had to tell his marketing, lead, or the marketing got a consultant that managed him. I had to say, well, the problem is that you've got one page that's targeting 2 cities and multiple keywords, and they had so much authority that they were still ranking above the middle fold of that first page, because they were an old site. They had a lot of branded offline marketing coming in, branded searches, and they had, DA 40 plus and PA 40 plus. So they were still ranking, but the page was not specialized. It was sloppy. And that is why they were not in the top like 3 or number 1 or whatever. So this is okay. Like, you can do it like this. Don't go beyond one city, focusing on one city. In terms of specialization, okay, your homepage can do that. In terms of there is a local, if you wanted to make this a more local company or a national company to Canada, you could come here at the bottom, and there are all kinds of examples of this. If you go do a Google search on, some plumbing companies, electrician companies, pest control companies, you'll see that at the bottom it'll say servicing these cities, and it'll say, Vancouver. I don't even know cities in Canada, to be honest, so I can't even tell you. It'll be servicing these counties or states. If it was in Texas, for example, if this was a national brand in the United States, it would say, if this was like USA CNC automation, right? That would be maybe the topic of the page, and it would talk about that. And then at the bottom, I would say servicing these states, okay, and then maybe clicking onto those states, there would be pages that were dedicated to those specific states, okay? And again, talking about the same topic, Texas CNC automation, okay? And then at the bottom saying servicing these cities, Fort Worth, Dallas, Arlington, Mansfield, Grand Prairie, etc. And then below that, servicing these zip codes, okay? And then on each of those cities, you can hyperlink to another page that says servicing. So, then it'd be Fort Worth CNC automation. Now, this is a very common local SEO method. I don't know if that's what you want to do. It's a lot of work. You have to get familiar with some spinning tools, but it's super powerful, right? And you can rank more easily for a smaller area than obviously a larger area. Fortunately for you, because of the competition in Canada, I don't think that it's really necessary that you do that. You know what I mean? but you still may want to put at the bottom, even though you're not linking to pages, you may want to put, you know, servicing these areas in Canada. It's up to you. I don't know. Like, I'm sure you guys do global servicing, because I know a friend of mine's dad. He's even done CNC machines for um, companies in Israel and things like that. So let's see here what I can learn from clicking on some other pages. So this is kind of like a blog area. That's what it looks like. Just keep in mind those content guidelines that I gave, and I think you'll do fine. Like, that's really the main thing. Once you fill the site out with content and you start doing press releases and promotions, this thing is going to be monstrous. I really don't have much else to add. I think that's pretty much it. There's nothing. There's not really any other secret sauce. It's just content, promotions, rinse and repeat. You know what I'm saying? So if you have any questions, oh, there's a video here. If you have any questions, you should put that up there. If you have any questions, man, just let me know. If I totally missed on something, let me know. Let me check something here. Yeah, looking at this message from you, I didn't even see these files you sent me with keyword research. I did my own keyword research, so what I sent you is more than enough. If you have something more than what I found, then by all means take action. I also noticed that you said that you were concerned about interlinking, and I mentioned, just Google silo stuff. Like, people always argue about how to do a silo, how to do interlinking, and I think it's just all silly. Like, if you're interlinking, period, you're transferring the juice, so don't obsess about it. Just when you do like, you can just do linking like this with, linking from a picture to somewhere to another page. You can do, like, if you write the article, and you can do some contextual links where you're highlighting a piece of phrase like Form 7 conduit bodies, right? And then have that hyperlinking to an inner page on Form 7 conduit bodies. And, you don't want to leave anything out of the network. Obviously, you don't want every link to every page on every single page. You just want to kind of link to a couple of things, maybe a few things, per page, and it just needs to go around and around and around, and then come back full circle to the home page, so that the juice flows, and it builds on itself that way and compounds. So, and as you do these big promotions, it'll trickle down, and it'll go and go and go and come back around. So, I mean, there is a point of diminishing returns, of course, but as you continue to do promotions, it'll just keep, not everything is going to come from one source. Something you have to keep in mind. You're going to do some promotions onto some different pages, and they're going to trickle from there to other things, and it's all good that way. So I think that's it. One thing I did also remember is, you're going from that other website to this website. You definitely want to, like, unless you really need two assets, like they're two different countries or something, you probably want to do a 301 redirect or something like that, or to this site, so that the juice from that site can pass to this site. I don't remember, this one was new, right? But the other site had a pretty good amount of domain and page authority. So, I mean, it really wasn't even necessary. I don't know why it was necessary. I really don't know why it was necessary to make this site, because the other site was, had a good amount of authority. But, I mean, that's up to you guys. So, you could maybe piggyback off of it by doing a guest post from that site, to this one, like, but there's definitely some benefit to showing Google that you have related assets, maybe this is the Canadian aspect of your site, and that would be something you would want to link to from the homepage. Check out our Canadian site or something. Check out the Canadian version of such and such. And then that way it can communicate that to Google that that's what that is. And so Google has no problem with that. Like when you see sites in different languages, for example, like those are actually different sites. You know, they're well, it depends on how you structure them, but a lot of the times they're structured on subdomains, and so there's some juice, but it just depends on your setup. And Google will reward you for affiliated assets. The only thing that they don't like is when you have a network and it's like you're trying to hide and you're trying to juice yourself and pretend that you're different brands. And so that's something different. So okay, if you have any questions, just let me know, man. I hope that I gave you plenty of actionable stuff. I try to keep it really simple, and provide something that's really simple and yet really powerful. And I think I've given you enough video footage to just be like overwhelmed. So, I hope you enjoyed it, man. And let me know what you think. Appreciate your time, and I will talk to you soon.